It's New Year's Eve, 1922, in the peaceful black community of Rosewood, Florida. The town's buzzing with news about John Bradley's upcoming land auction, a promising 5-acre plot that'll be up for grabs on January 1st. In one of Rosewood's homes, we find Sylvester Carrier at his piano, his fingers dancing across the keys during a music lesson. His mother, Sarah, a respected figure in town, shares a warm goodbye with him and his wife, Gertrude, before heading to her job. She's the housekeeper for the Taylors, a white family in nearby Sumner. Sarah's not traveling alone. Young Arnett joins her on the train ride to Sumner. He's quite the entrepreneur, selling eggs to folks they meet along their journey. Meanwhile, in Sumner, Mary, the young second wife of store owner John Wright, sends a guy named Big Baby to deliver her husband's breakfast. But here's where things get spicy. At Wright's store, he's having a secret rendezvous with his clerk Jewel, who happens to be Sarah's niece. Talk about awkward timing when Big Baby shows up. Wright scrambles to get dressed, trying to act casual as he accepts his breakfast delivery. The scene shifts to the woods outside Sumner, where we meet Duke, a nasty piece of work who's hunting boar with his son Emmett. When Emmett tries to greet his friend Arnett, Duke shows his true colors, violently scolding his son for befriending a black person. The tension ratchets up when Sheriff Ellis Walker and Deputy Earl roll through. They're on the hunt for an escaped man named Jesse Hunter. Ellis tries to keep things civil, asking Duke to turn Jesse in if he spots him, but Deputy Earl's itching for a more violent solution. Back at the Taylor's house, Sarah walks in on an uncomfortable scene. Fanny Taylor's shooting down her husband James's advances. Rejected, James heads off to his job at Cummer & Sons lumber mill, leaving the tension hanging in the air. Enter our mysterious newcomer, a man known simply as Mann, riding into Rosewood on his horse, Booker T. His first stop, Sam Carter's blacksmith shop, where he needs some new horseshoes. Sam's ready to close up early for New Year's Eve, but offers Mann a spot in the stable for Booker T, promising to tackle the job first thing tomorrow. Mann's interest gets caught by that land auction sign, leading him straight to Wright's store. When he asks about the land, Wright plays it coy, hinting he's got his own plans to snag it tomorrow. The conversation shifts to Mann looking for 45 shells, and wouldn't you know it, Wright's whole attitude changes once he spots Mann's well-stuffed wallet. As Mann wanders through Rosewood, he crosses paths with Scrappy, Sylvester's spirited 17-year-old cousin. The Carriers, being the heart of hospitality in Rosewood, welcome Mann to their New Year's Eve dinner, but Sylvester's no fool. He's got questions for their mysterious guest, noting that men who wander usually have something to sell, or something to hide. The dinner table's quite a gathering. There's Sarah's brother James Carrier and his wife Emma, plus their daughter Jewel. Things get tense when Sylvester mentions confronting Henry Andrews for harassing Scrappy. Sarah's quick to voice her concerns. She knows all too well the dangers of a black man standing up to white folks in their time. This sparks a heated moment. Sylvester challenges his mother, asking if they should just ignore such disrespect. James Carrier weighs in, agreeing it's wrong, while casting a knowing glance at Jewel, who keeps mysteriously quiet. The evening winds down with Sarah painting a picture of Rosewood for Mann, a prosperous black community where they own nearly everything except Wright's store. She proudly points out that many of Rosewood's black residents are actually doing better than their white neighbors in Sumner. It's clear she's hoping Mann might see Rosewood as more than just another stop on his journey. New Year's Eve continues with Wright disciplining his children for disrespecting their stepmother, a sensitive situation in a house still mourning their birth mother. At the community dance, romance blooms as Mann and Scrappy share a dance floor where everyone's paired up. Well, almost everyone. Jewel notably stays on the sidelines, her absence from the dancing speaking volumes. As 1923 dawns, Scrappy discovers Mann battling nightmares, the invisible wounds of his war service still haunting him. Later at Wright's store, while picking up those 45 shells, Wright reveals he's a fellow veteran trying to establish a connection with Mann. The morning takes a dark turn at the Taylor's house. While Sarah and young Philomena are working, they become unwilling witnesses to Fanny's private affairs. A violent confrontation erupts between Fanny and her lover, ending in chaos. When Philomena tries to help, Fanny pushes her away. A curious exchange follows, as Fanny's lover encounters Aaron Carrier. The men share a secret Masonic greeting, leading Aaron to seek help from Sam. Despite Sam's initial reluctance to assist a white man who could spell trouble, Aaron's persistence wins out. The land auction becomes a turning point. Mann, backed by Sylvester, successfully outbids Wright, but this victory is overshadowed by a horrifying development. Fanny Taylor emerges from her house screaming, fabricating a story about being attacked by a black man to cover up her earlier encounter. The situation escalates rapidly. Emmett's report sets law enforcement in motion, with Ellis and Earl loading their weapons. As Earl spreads the news to James Taylor and Henry, the story morphs, now including false accusations that make the situation even more volatile. The auction comes to an abrupt halt as panic spreads through the community. When suspicion falls on Mann, he quickly produces his military discharge papers, proving he's not Jesse Hunter. But by now, a dangerous momentum has begun building in the community. The scene grows chaotic as townspeople gather around Fanny Taylor. When Sheriff Ellis presses her for details, she backs away from her initial claim, now saying she was only beaten, describing her attacker simply as big and black. In a private moment, Ellis tries to get the real story from her, but she sticks to her fabricated version. After James Taylor carries his wife inside, Ellis questions Sarah, who truthfully states she hasn't seen any attacker. Meanwhile, Philomena and Arnett find Scrappy and reveal the truth they witnessed. Fanny's story doesn't match what actually happened. The situation spirals as Ellis forms a posse of white men convinced Jesse Hunter is their suspect. Their tracking dogs lead them to Aaron instead, and they violently apprehend him. Wright tries to intervene, vouching for Aaron's character and reminding them of the carrier's good standing in the community. But the mob, led by Duke, grows increasingly violent, forcing young Emmett to participate in Aaron's torment. In desperation, Aaron reveals he helped a fellow Mason because of their sacred oath, a confession that only enrages his captors further. Ellis manages to prevent a lynching, and Wright helps secure Aaron, though badly injured in a jail cell. The night takes an even darker turn when Mann witnesses Sam's confrontation with the mob. Despite Sam's denial of knowing Jesse's whereabouts, the situation turns deadly. Duke fires the first shot, and others follow, while Ellis's attempts to maintain order. Later, when James Taylor informs Fanny about Sam's lynching, she shows signs of wanting to confess the truth, but before she can speak, visiting women arrive to offer their sympathy, interrupting this crucial moment of potential honesty. The story takes a grave turn as Mann shows Sylvester Sam's body. After giving Sam a proper, respectful removal, they gather the community in their church to strategize against the approaching lynch mob. The tension in the church is palpable as they debate their next moves. Bradley's voice of caution suggests evacuating women and children to Gainesville, but this splits the room. The carriers stand firm. They won't abandon Aaron in that jail cell. Sylvester, filled with determination, insists on defending their homes and their rights. A crucial moment comes when Sylvester turns to Mann for help, citing his military experience. But Mann, haunted by his war experiences, declines, triggering accusations of cowardice from Wright. The atmosphere shifts when Sarah, finally speaking up after the preacher's departure, reveals the truth about the attacker's identity, confirming it wasn't a black man at all. In a poignant scene between Mann and Scrappy, she blocks his escape, confronting his decision to leave. Mann explains the deadly stakes. Staying means risking his life. He leaves her with his war medal as a promise to return, creating a bittersweet moment between them. Dawn brings a growing threat as the mob increases in size. When Scrappy urges Sarah to reveal the truth, Sarah delivers a harsh reality check about racial prejudice in their time. A glimmer of humanity appears in Mr. Bryce, the white train conductor, who offers an escape route to Gainesville. Sarah's response is heavy with historical weight. Danger has always been their reality. The tension ratchets up when Ellis confronts Sylvester about Jesse Hunter. Sylvester's response is bold but measured. If Ellis truly wants to help, he needs to stop the mob. The scene at Wright's store crackles with tension as Sylvester tries to buy shotgun shells. Wright's demand to settle accounts leads to an explosive moment where Sylvester orders Jewel to leave the store, exposing the tangled relationships at play. Despite Wright's protests about staying in Rosewood, Sylvester stands his ground, paying his debt and claiming the ammunition they'll need for what's coming. The tension explodes when Earl stirs up the mob against Sylvester, with some even taking offense at his owning a piano. The peaceful celebration of Arnett's birthday at the carrier's home is shattered when the mob arrives, demanding Jesse's surrender. The situation turns violent instantly when Duke shoots the family dog, sending the children into terror. Inside, Sylvester moves quickly, getting the children under the table while warning Sarah away from the windows. In a moment of incredible courage, Sarah faces the mob and reveals the truth about Fanny's white attacker. The response is devastating. A shot rings out, striking Sarah. The situation escalates into chaos as Sylvester defends his home, fatally shooting 2 attackers, including Henry, before pulling Sarah inside. The heartbreaking scene that follows shows Sylvester holding his mother as she slips away in his arms. Meanwhile, at Wright's store, the gravity of events becomes clear as Wright confronts Ellis about Sarah's shooting. Ellis's pointed question about Sylvester's ammunition source leaves Wright in telling silence. With time running out, Sylvester orchestrates an escape plan, sending Gertrude and Scrappy to lead the children to safety in the swamps. Big Baby makes the brave choice to stay and fight alongside Sylvester. The violence escalates as Earl's report to the judge brings more armed men to the scene. The mob returns with greater numbers, and in the ensuing chaos they burn the carrier house. When they spot a burning figure on the stairs, they assume it's Sylvester. The aftermath brings some moments of conscience, Ellis insisting on proper burial for Sarah and James Taylor expressing remorse over her death. When Taylor returns home to tell Fanny about the deaths of Sarah and Sylvester, her emotional breakdown prompts his angry outburst about Rosewood's destruction while the real attacker remains free. These events mark a point of no return for the community as violence born from a lie spirals into tragedy. The violence spreads as news reaches neighboring towns. When armed men encounter Mann, a brief shootout ensues. Their exaggerated report to Duke claims an attack by 15 armed black men, spurring the mob to action just as Ellis receives a crucial call from the governor. Rosewood descends into horror as the mob forces children to witness unspeakable acts of violence against their community members. Meanwhile, Wright and his son Timothy find Bradley hiding in their shop, wounded, grieving his wife's death, and desperate to know his children's fate. Though initially hesitant, Wright's decision to help comes with strings attached, negotiations about Bradley's land deed. A powerful moment of resistance occurs at the Alachua County border, where an armed group of law enforcement officers makes a decisive stand. When confronted by Duke's claims about hunting Jesse Hunter, the sheriff firmly defends his county's black residents and backs his words with action, forcing the mob to retreat. Back in Rosewood, the devastation continues as homes and businesses burn. The mob, led by Earl, heads toward the swamp, making light of the terror they're causing. Ellis's visible discomfort stands in stark contrast to their cruel enthusiasm. The scene turns even darker when they kill the preacher and ring the church bell, a cruel trap that nearly costs his children their lives. They emerge from hiding, believing their father's signal means safety, only to face the horrifying reality of their burning town. Mann's timely intervention saves them from becoming the mob's next victims. In a chilling parallel to the violence, Duke attempts to pass his hatred to the next generation by teaching Emmett to make a noose, while Wright watches from a distance, his disgust evident but his intervention notably absent. This sequence powerfully illustrates how violence escalates when hatred goes unchecked, and how different people choose to act or not act in the face of injustice. As desperation mounts, Mann returns the children to the swamp's safety, where Scrappy delivers the heartbreaking news about Sarah, Sylvester, and Big Baby. Acting quickly, he sends Arnett deeper into the swamp with the women and children. A parallel drama unfolds at the Wright residence, where Mary tends to wounded black residents they're hiding. Mann arrives with a weakened James Carrier, Emma and Jewel close behind. The moment turns tense when James refuses sanctuary, confronting Wright about his relationship with Jewel. Despite Mary's plea to help, Jewel makes the fateful decision to stay behind, sharing a final goodbye with her parents. The situation deteriorates when the mob arrives, demanding to question James Carrier about Sylvester and Jesse. Using Jewel's capture as leverage, they force Wright's hand. Despite Mary's fierce opposition, Wright yields to their threats against his family, trusting Ellis's promise of just questioning. What follows is a scene of profound cruelty. With Sarah's unburied body as a backdrop, James Taylor threatens James Carrier, demanding information about Jesse. The mob's mockery, as they force him to dig his own grave, reveals their inhumanity. Despite Ellis's desperate plea for information that might save him, James Carrier maintains his truth. He's never met Jesse. Duke's response is swift and brutal, ending James's life before turning his venom on Wright. The next day brings a new horror as Wright discovers Jewel's body, the evidence of violence clear in how she was left. This devastating discovery seems to catalyze Wright's deeper involvement in helping the survivors. A plan for escape takes shape as Wright provides Mann with ammunition and coordinates with the Bryce brothers for a train rescue. He directs Mann and Scrappy to a meeting point near Kelly's Pond, using his knowledge of the area to plot their salvation. The sequence powerfully illustrates how Crisis reveals true character, some descending into brutality while others risk everything to help their neighbors survive. The night takes a dark turn as Duke forces Emmett to witness a horrifying sight, a pit filled with black corpses, including innocent babies. Emmett breaks down, but Duke, relentless in his cruelty, slaps him and continues his twisted attempt to instill hatred. Refusing to be brainwashed, Emmett flees. Duke's vicious words echo, "That's right, Emmett, go ahead and shoot your ugly father." The tension builds as Earl leads a mob to the Wrights' house, intent on violence. But Mary's clever question about killing a white woman stops them in their tracks, sending them scurrying away. Panic sets in as Mann realizes Arnett and Minnie are missing. He sets out to find them, while the two manage to dodge the bloodthirsty posse and rejoin their group. But fate takes a cruel turn. Mann falls into the posse's clutches. The scene grows more intense as Mann fights for his life, hanging from a tree. Suddenly, Ellis has a moment of clarity. He confronts James Taylor, revealing a shocking truth. The executed people of color were likely innocent. Why? Because Fanny's been unfaithful, and everyone knows it. The posse's reaction? Uncomfortable chuckles and crude remarks about Fanny's wild ways. A wave of disbelief washes over the scene. These men knew all along about Fanny's infidelities, yet they used her tears as an excuse for their heinous acts against innocent people. The hypocrisy is staggering. In the chaos of Ellis and James Taylor's confrontation, Mann seizes his chance and escapes. The posse, caught off guard, opens fire. Meanwhile, Ellis offers a remorseful apology to James Taylor for the harsh revelation. James Taylor, in turn, admits he never fully believed Fanny's lies from the start. The women and children barely make it onto the Bryce's train, narrowly escaping the bloodthirsty posse. Wright and Mann face a heart-wrenching decision, turning away black men trying to board. They know that if any are found, it'll mean death for everyone. As the posse guns down the men left behind, Mann fires back from the train, his heart heavy with the weight of their choices. Suddenly, Sylvester appears with Booker T, leaving everyone stunned. Mann and Scrappy share a bittersweet kiss, vowing to meet again in Gainesville. As Mann departs with Sylvester, he learns of his friend's ingenious escape plan, hiding in Sarah's coffin. Meanwhile, Wright finally reunites with his anxious family. The next day brings more turmoil. James Taylor, now aware of the truth, returns home and violently confronts Fanny about her lies and infidelity. In another part of town, young Emmett makes a brave choice. He packs his bags and leaves Duke, tearfully declaring his hatred for the man's ugly soul. Fast forward to 1993, 7 decades after the horrific events. The Florida House of Representatives takes a historic step, approving reparations for the Rosewood families. This victory is largely thanks to Arnett Doctor, Philomena's son, who champions the cause. The testimonies of survivors, children during the massacre, and a white witness proving crucial in this long overdue justice. The official death toll stands at 8 2 whites and 6 blacks, but survivors paint a far grimmer picture, estimating between 40 and 150 deaths, almost all African American. The true extent of the tragedy may never be fully known.